and I'll start by introducing the panel. First we have Fatima. She's an award-winning director and writer of 1001 Teardrops, which has been shortlisted for over 28 festivals and won several awards. Fatima was the first individual to be awarded a scholarship from Magic of Persia to do a master's at LFS, and the 1001 Teardrops was her final film as part of that master's. And she's also directed several live-action documentaries and films. And next to her we have Marianne. She's an award-winning animator and director, and she's the animator and additional designer of 1001 Teardrops. And next to her we have Judith. Judith is a PhD student at the University of Roehampton, where she has been awarded the Vice Chancellor Scholarship. And her first film is A Letter of Love to You that we saw, and that was made as part of a wider practice-based part of her PhD research into contemporary studies in film. Contemporary women's studies in film, sorry. And then we have Jo. Jo is the animator of the film that we saw, they call as Maids. She has worked together with Leeds Animation Workshop on several of their films since the 1980s, and she also has her own practice as a painter and fine art animator. And Terry is one of the co-founders of Leeds Animation Workshop, which is a women-run collective and non-profit production company, cooperative. And they've been making films about social issues for 40 years, since 1976. And this film they call as Made is their 40th film. So let's give a round of applause for her. Ask you all a question. Would you consider yourself a feminist filmmaker? And if so, how does that influence your work or the way you work? And if not, why not?
Thank you very much for having me. It's a huge honor to be here. And just to correct a little thing, the film actually made it to 43 festivals.
Wow.
Yeah. But I consider myself as a feminist, and I'm a filmmaker, so I think I'm a feminist filmmaker. Yes.
It's one of the most difficult questions that I could be asked. There is certainly a theme of feminism in my films, in every film that I've made so far. But I don't like labeling myself. Not that everyone else is, but I like playing with boundaries. I don't know, maybe I want to be a feminist slash childlike slash dreamer, childlike slash, so on and so forth. So you're not just a feminist, let's say, not just a feminist.
I think for me, if you think that feminist means that all human beings are equal, yes, then I'm definitely a feminist, because I really believe that we all should have equal rights and that we are all unique in that way as well. And am I a filmmaker? This is my first film, but I certainly think that working with audiovisual material is very powerful. And I think about this TED Talk that, I don't know, some of you might know the founders of Film Club, or what is now called Into Film. And she did a fantastic TED Talk where she said, why do we always contribute so much power to books and not to films? And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in audiovisual material, of the narratives that we can tell, of the stories that can be heard in film. And I think that's why I'm interested in using this medium to kind of think about feminine subjectivity and thinking about giving a voice to stories that otherwise might not be heard, or might not be heard in that way.
Yes, hello, thanks for having me. Well, like it has been said already, I am a feminist and a filmmaker, so yes, I consider myself a feminist filmmaker. I'm other things as well, but that is one of them. Thanks.
Hello. Yes, for me it's a very easy question. Of course I'm a feminist filmmaker. And the animation workshop was set up really to make feminist films, but that's not all they're about. They're about all sorts of things, but whatever they're about, whether they're about dads in prison, or whether they're about bereaved adolescents, or whether they're about saving energy and saving the world, they're all informed by feminism somehow or another. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so Fatima and Marianne, I'm going to start with you two. The film industry is notorious for being very male-dominated and centering male narratives. And I was wondering, what have been your experiences as a filmmaker and as an animator working on films that center women's experiences and working as female filmmakers?
Well, when I was making this one, I was still in film school, and many of my classmates were women, and the guys that I used to work with, they were all, such gentlemen. They were like, I didn't have any problem when I was making this one, and also after that, honestly, I think I didn't have any problem. I didn't feel like, I'm being discriminated because I'm a woman in any case. No, it didn't happen at all. There is something like, there's a concept, positive discrimination. I think I felt that even more. I felt like, okay, because I'm a woman, I know that this idea that I just wrote is the first draft of anything is shit, according to Hemingway. I know that this idea needs more work into it. Because I felt like because I'm a woman, they accept the idea. They like to give me fun or something to go ahead and make it. Rather than feel, oh no, they don't like me, or they're dominating me because I'm a woman.
I think I've been quite lucky in my filmmaking career so far. The animations I make are mainly made on my computer, on my own. The time that I'm in contact with other people is with actors for the sound and music. I even do the editing mainly myself. So as a director, the guys I've worked with, they were all very, I was the one, they accepted me as the director and as the one in power. The musician that I've had the best experience with was a woman, and I'm still going to work with her. So I think I've been sort of saved from the whole, what was the word you used?
Discrimination.
Yeah, discrimination. I hope I'll be okay from now on.
Great. So Judith, it's quite interesting. Your film was made as part of an academic course rather than in film school or in the industry. And I was wondering if you could comment on the restrictions versus the freedoms to experiment in an academic setting, as opposed to if you'd made it at film school or in the industry.
Okay, so I can only talk about my own experience, and I want to keep it short, so please come up to me afterwards if you would like to chat about this more, or if you're doing a similar project and kind of want to share ideas, or if you're interested in this. But I think there's 2 points that I find challenging. One is the fact that every idea, everything that I think about, every voice that I want to include, every picture of a person I want to include has to run through ethics approval first. And everything that I include will be questioned in terms of why you're including this. What will this practice add to your theory that we can't get out of the theory? But at the same time, that makes me question these things over and over again, and makes me wonder about what I'm telling with the audiovisual material that I'm using. On the other hand, though, I think this is a really amazing time, because for a long time theory was here and the filmmakers were there, and now there is a way to bring these two elements together. And I come from a theory background, and I'm a languages teacher, And I always felt in my own practice that when I was teaching, one way to really engage students and to give them something to say was when you included material that really spoke to them. So actually having this possibility to bring theory and practice together is it's a challenge, but it's also a real freedom and something innovative and something that we should embrace, I think.
Thank you. And Terry and Joe, what's interesting about Leeds Animation Workshop, I think, is that it's a production company, but it's run as a collective and a cooperative, and I haven't come across any other production company that's like that. So I wondered, what has it been like running it as a cooperative and a collective, and if any female filmmakers now would like to do the same, what advice would you give to them?
I think I'd say go for it, because I mean we've been going for a long time. It's not always been all the same members, but for a very long time we had a very steady team, and that was a strength. I mean, it was a bit like being in a 5-way marriage for 30 years. So you know, you can imagine there's occasionally tensions and all that, but it was also a very supportive way to make films, and we worked by having regular meetings about everything, by everyone having a creative job, an admin job, and even a cleaning job within the workshop, and by bringing things to meetings to decide collectively by consensus, which meant that, you know, sometimes you had an idea and everybody else said nah, and it was disappointing, but other times you had an idea or other people stronger than the individual. And it was also, I think as a woman you tend to be a bit backwards about coming forwards, like with a film that you've made yourself as an individual project. Sometimes it's, you know, you feel a bit modest about it, or you don't want to push it too much. But when it's a collective thing, and when it's a film with a message, like the one here that we made with Justice for Domestic Workers, we want to push their message, and it sort of strengthens you about going out and speaking up for it. So yeah, go and do it. Come and talk to us if you want to join.
Joe, how have you found it working with the collective?
Collective working is the best way to work, in my experience. In my working life, I've been everything. I've been an employee, I've worked for a multinational, I've worked for a small organisation, I've been self-employed, but collective working is brilliant. It's hard, but at the end of the day, it's just very rewarding. So yeah, I mean, the sense of equality that you have while you're doing your work, that's just brilliant. But yeah, it's challenging.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for a Q&A.